Signal and noise is always one element that I point out because when you talk about the signal being strong is good, but when you talk about the noise floor, you usually want to look at an SNR value. Normally, I like something better than 20. 25 is usually what you want to measure to so that you get yourself some wiggle room. So in this scenario, as you look here, we've selected signal and noise. And we've defined 25 as our threshold here. If we want to go down to 20, you can see that, hey, all areas are met now. But if we go back up to 25, looking at it from a client view, this area where we had the gray area from a signal perspective also does not match the 25 dB or higher signal noise ratio. So in that area, which happens to be in the stairwell, it might not be that critical. So as you look at this from an SNR perspective, just keep that in mind as well.
And that's an important point because to get the highest connectivity, the highest data rates, chipsets will typically open those up on the client side if they're getting a neg 70 dBm signal or stronger. And where you just were was neg 71. So that means that that client is going to calculate a different modulation encoding scheme value. So they're going to negotiate a lower data rate with the AP. So if there's something that's there quite often and it keeps winning the contention for the medium, every time that device wins the contention for the medium has to slow down to let that device work because it can't use the higher data rates. And that could be caused by any kind of noise that's out there. Wi-Fi, non-Wi-Fi, whatever you've got in the space that could be causing that noise. You want to try to be at least 25 dB over the noise floor. And if the noise floor goes up from a standard office, which is normally about neg 95, if it goes up from neg 95 to say neg 80 because of some odd noise, then you need to increase your signal strength so you can keep that good signal to noise ratio. There's another factor too, is signal to noise to interference ratio. So that's another metric that's used. You see it used a lot in cellular, but it's also important for Wi-Fi because you got to take into account any interferers out there, because if there's interference on the channel and you transmit and collide with it, you're going to have a high retransmission rate, which is going to lower your throughput. So you may need to do it. Actually, you will need to do a good physical survey, find the noise, and exclude channels where the noise resides from your channel plan.
And then you can look at interferers if you had them identified. However, without the interferers, this is just going to be a signal to noise. So you're not going to get a SI and R reading in here. So if you find those interferers and they are something that are consistent within the environment, you can actually place those into the map and account for those based on a final design.
Right. If possible, you want to try to get rid of the interference source, but sometimes you can't. It could be mission critical machinery, or it could be a surveillance camera that you can't change the channel on. It's got to stay right where it is. And you can't switch over to a wired camera for some reason. So you can always adapt the APs around the noise as best you can. In some environments, you may even have to switch from 2.4 to 5 gigahertz or from 5 to 2.4 to avoid where the noise resides. However, the bulk of the non-Wi-Fi interference is going to be found in 2.4.
Absolutely.
It's not much in 5. Cordless phones, maybe. Weather radar, not a lot in 5. Most of the things in 2.4 have been there for years in 2.4, and like microwaves and Bluetooth and other stuff. But
frequency hopping, cordless phones.
Yeah, it's rough.
USB 3.0 if you're really close.
And if you are doing the physical surveys and you're using a USB device as part of that, some type of connector or anything else plugged in that's USB, you want to make sure it's well shielded, because if it's a USB 3 that is not well shielded, it's going to create 2.4 interference right next to your radio, and it's going to skew your designs. You can get USB hubs that are encased in metal to hold that signal in, and there are lots of different brands out there you can find. But I noticed that when I was using a plastic housing one, and then switched over to a metal encased one, and the problem went away.